Your Excellencies, ambassadors, dignitaries of friendly countries, prominent leaders of civil society organizations, prominent leaders of Central Board of Muhammadiyah, as well as from Nahdlatul Ulama, prominent intellectuals from universities. We have here Professor Dr. Taufik Abdullah, Professor Didi Grandini, Professor Siti Zubro, and we also have Professor Samsul Arifin from Malang Muhammadiyah University, Professor Saiful Bahri, Rector of University of Muhammadiyah Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we also have here Mrs. Jenny Wahid, Executive Director of the Wahid Institute. Please. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our dialogue on civilization, presenting His Serene Highness Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. He is the chairman of the advisory board of the International Peace Foundation in Vienna. Today he will talk on building bridges across civilisational divides. But before I introduce more about him and also some of other people from the International Peace Foundation, I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Insam Shudin, Chairman of the Center for Dialogue and Cooperation Among Civilizations, to give the welcoming remarks. Please.
Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon all of you. On behalf of CDCC, the Center for Dialogue and Cooperation Among Civilizations, I would like to welcome and greet each one and every one of you, especially our guest of honor, His Serene Highness Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Perfectly. Thank you. And also Chairman of International Peace Foundation, Dr. Owe Morales. Not Ove. Ove. So sorry. And distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to CDCC, and we welcome our guests of honor to Jakarta, to Indonesia. As I mentioned, that His Serene Highness Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein came to kick off or launching one very important event, which is the 6th ASEAN event series, Bridges Dialogues Toward the Culture of Peace, including of that great activity to facilitate the coming of 7 laureates, Nobel Prize recipients in sciences and many other fields to Indonesia starting in October this year. Of course, we are grateful for the International Peace Foundation to give us opportunities as well to welcome our Prince today. Ladies and gentlemen, in the aftermath of the Cold War, starting maybe 1991, the dream for peace, for peaceful world, has not yet come true. As we see today, many kinds of violence, including violence extremisms, either in the name of religion, ideology, and other primordial orientation, has been occurring in the world, and countering violent extremisms has become a trending topic of many conferences and seminars of the world today. I myself have been attending during the last 3 months, maybe more than 6 to 7 conferences, seminars with the same topics. And CDCC, hopefully inshallah, in October, we will be organizing the 6th World Peace Forum, bringing together foreign participants, leaders, and domestic participants. Also to talk about countering violent extremisms, this human dignity, of course, global injustice, and collective responsibility. Because countering violent extremisms is our collective responsibility. And the theme for today's dialogue, we call it Dialogue on Civilization, building bridges, plural, not one bridge, bridges across civilizational divides. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we are witnessing also today civilizational divides, especially as epilogue of war on terror, of terror action 19 September in America, and then followed by war on terror, the problem of de-radicalization and countering violent extremisms have been our great concern, and therefore we need to work together, especially the people of wisdom, the people of peace, to work together to engage in the problem solving, which is to build bridges toward civilizational divides. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we'd like to welcome His Elite once again, Prince Alfred, our great honor. We are delighted to have you here in Jakarta with nice batik. It's Yogyakarta or Surabaya? I was told the batik was a present gift from the mayor of Surabaya city who met him yesterday. So we are honored and we are delighted to be here. Also to my good friend through email. This is my first time meeting you. Dr. Uwe Morawitz, Chairman of the International Peace Foundation. And please welcome me, please join me in welcoming Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein.
Thank you, Professor Din Samsudin. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Uwe Morawitz, Chairman of the International Peace Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, it is His Highness now first time visit in relation to the Bridges event series. And he already got the batik shirt. I have been coming to Indonesia maybe 10 times over the last 2 years without ever receiving one. I've been big jealous. So this is why I'm standing here in the suit, but I had the great honor and pleasure to meet Dr. Taufik Abdullah and also Ms. Jenny Wahid, who have been very helpful with their advice in preparing these bridges, dialogues towards the culture of peace event series. We have been doing this over the last 14 years in different ASEAN countries like Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore. Now it's time for Indonesia to host the events. And we have organized it in a way that the Nobel Prize winners in peace, physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics are not coming all at once at the same time to Indonesia, but consecutively over the period of 3 months. So, yes, the one is Professor Engel. He received the Nobel Prize in economics. From New York University. He will speak about the prospects for financial stability, global stability in the future. There will be another Nobel laureate in economics, Professor Eric Muskin. He will be speaking about why global economy has failed to reduce inequality. There will be 2 Nobel laureates in the field of physics, one in chemistry, one in medicine, and politician who received the Nobel Prize on behalf of the European Union, Professor Jose Manuel Barroso, and they will be going to schools and universities across the country here. So we have various universities involved in the program here in Jakarta, like the University of Indonesia, Indonesia, or Venus University, Atmajaya University. Several of them are going to Yogyakarta, Gajah Mada University, or they're going to Surabaya, Erlangga University, Petra University, and also several are going to ITB or Pachacuran University in Bandung. And what is special is that they come here not only for one speech, but they stay here, each of them, at least 10 days. To engage, they are also going to speak at high schools, to engage with the young generation. And most of them, six of them, are coming from the United States. So also they have chosen to come to Indonesia and not to go to Vietnam in our previous series or other countries, because of their real interest now in Indonesia. So, as you know, I mean, there are some misperceptions also about the Muslim world, and these were in the United States, we want them here to have the best experiences, to, let's say, become goodwill ambassadors of Indonesia, to report about their visits in the United States and other parts of the world. So, what we invite them here is not only to give a speech, but we invite them here for dialogues, which is the name of the series, Dialogues Towards a Fashion of Peace. And dialogue starts to listen, with listening. So this is why we want them to listen to the young generation, the students of Indonesia, why we want them to listen to the professors in the universities and the teachers. And as a result, what happened in other countries like Vietnam or Singapore now, these Nobel laureates, they come back to Thailand on a regular basis. They start research programs with the universities, and this is also what we want here as a result. So it's not a one-time event or a series of events, but a continuous process of synergies to make it a success for the country in the long term, to contribute to development through education. Because we think the basis for peace is education, and our foundation is non-political, non-religious, but this is the basis for peace, we think, education. This is why we want to support the schools and university, and the first step to get to peace is dialogue, and this is why we have invited Prince Alfred here to launch the Bridges series. So he had the possibility already to meet with various people, and on a high level, like Vice President Kala, who is now the honorary chairman of Bridges in Indonesia, and many others, and he and I look forward to having this dialogue with you. So thank you for coming today, and welcome again, Ms. Alfred.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uwe Morawitz. Without further ado, I would like to invite His Serene Highness Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. This is not to give a talk. I've been advised that Prince Alfred is not going to give. He prefers to have a dialogue with every one of you. So feel free to interrupt, to talk. And then I was asking Mr. Daniel what we should appropriately refer to the Prince. It would be preferred to be called Prince Alfred. So please feel free when you ask questions. I would like to invite His Highness to come to the front to give a little bit welcoming remarks.
Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I'm a devotee of God. I'm a believer in God. And I think the basis of dialogue is that we share our beliefs. And since I'm a believer in God and a deep devotee, I look into the roots of what Muslim means and the word where it comes from, and Islam. And as far as I understand, it means devotion to God. And therefore, I have to tell you that in this sense, I'm a Muslim too. So we share something, yeah? And also, okay. Now, this is, I think, a first step into going into dialogue. I'm very interested to speak about the clash between civilizations. You know, the famous book of the American professor, his name is Huntington, yes. So I don't think that in reality there must be and there is a clash of civilizations. I think we have different dividing lines which split humanity. And we can say the one are the believers and the non-believers, for instance, because our Western civilization went into a path of rejecting God, of following some philosophical concept where we, and based on technology and science, where we feel in our countries, in our part of the civilization, that we humans are able to handle our own affairs, that we humans are in control of everything, and that God is maybe existing somewhere far away, but we don't need to invite him in our everyday life. We don't need him because we are superior enough to manage our own affairs. And this is now becoming, so to speak, the global civilization. Now, looking from this point of view, I once more want to say that the division in humanity and the global development is not between the religions, but between people who believe that we have a divine order, that God is still alive, that God is every day with us, and we should be every day with God, and the people who feel that God is either dead already or did never exist, or maybe he's a remote entity which was in the beginning of the Big Bang, or sometimes behind the Big Bang, or maybe the cause of the Big Bang, and afterwards he left us alone. And we don't know whether he went on pension or on holidays or something like this. You know? Anyway, so now, saying this as an introduction, I really would like to enter into a dialogue very soon and not give a speech here, because in preparing now the meeting here with our host, the professor, I said, you know, you are participating in so many conferences recently about peace and understanding and prevention, radicalism and prevention of terrorism and so on. But what does it bring about? What do you talk about? I mean, just to emphasize like a mantra all the time, we want peace, we are for peace, we are the peaceful ones, or whatever, this will not help us. Because obviously, you know, we either, what the Americans say, we preach to the converted, you know, then nice people like us are sitting together and we are all for peace and we say we need peace, okay. And this we repeat now for 2 hours, basically, in other words, and we say, and then we go home, but nothing has changed, you know, nothing has changed because it's words. So we have to look for concepts, for tools and for instruments, for models, how we can become peaceful human beings. So then we start to be on the philosophical foundation, you know, and we have to speak on a deeper level to each other. We have to ask ourselves, what discriminates us from animals, you know, because if we just look into all the material activities, if we if we eat good food, if we breathe, if we have sex with each other, if we, I don't know what, I mean, name it, or looking for pleasures of all kind of things, all the animals are doing the same. So, from this point of view, basically, we have no discrimination between animals and human beings. So what makes us human? What makes a human being human? And this is something else, you know, and this is maybe called spirituality, and this is maybe called consciousness, and this is maybe called reflection about ourselves, and this is maybe has to do something with the search for meaning in our life. Why are we here? Why am I born into a noble family in Europe, and why are you born in Indonesia, in whatever family you were born? How does it come? How does this come? And what does it mean for me, and what does it mean for all of you? That you are here now, on this planet, on Earth. Yeah? So, I think we have to start to take some time to go on a deeper level, and then to look what are the causes of terror, you know? Because now the security forces and all the conferences which are more in the, let's say, military, in the security, in the secret service field and so on, they only look where will be the next attack, when will be the next attack. And this is all they talk about. But they don't talk about the causes. They don't ask why are these young men angry. I mean, how does it come that somebody commits suicide with a bomb and with the target to take with him as many people as possible, you know, in dying? So what are the causes, you know? And what can it be prevented, and on which level, and how do we have to deal with each other? How have we look back in history and try to find out what's going on here? And probably, you know, we have to go back to the Crusades and even further back, yeah? Because this is not an invention of the Muslims, you know? Yeah? The violence, yeah, to mission, to and so on. And then we have to ask ourselves, what is jihad, yeah, for instance? You know, because we have in these mythologies, we have in all the religions, and in the Hindu maybe you call it the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, and this is about battles, this is about wars. And so, but this war, if you truly understand it, I'm convinced from a spiritual point of view, this is the war within yourself, where you have to fight against the evils and the non-believing elements within yourself, you know. We can interpret this very different. This is the non-believer is in me. And if you seriously look into yourself, you will understand what this means, what I say. So, I think at this point, I don't know how I shall handle it, but I would like to enter really into a dialogue, and since we are a small group of people here, we really can speak to each other. I think it's the most fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prince Alfred. I think there are some of the important points that he tried to highlight. First is that the conflicts between believers and non-believers. That's the conflict that we often have seen today. Secondly, that he emphasized in the dialogue mostly is conducted at the elite level, so it doesn't really go down to the grassroots, and that is why we need tools. You know, we need to talk, but we also need to cooperate at the grassroots level. The last one is what the government or the police or the counter-terrorism agency is doing is only to look for the next attack. They don't often go deeper to look for the cause of the terrorism. So there are three things that I've been trying to understand, and then I would like to invite every one of you here to participate in the dialogue. Yeah, this is a dialogue on civilization, not a lecture on civilization. So please, I'd like to welcome every one of you to
or between states, and now it is the problem of the world, and sometimes even and the superpowers cannot solve the problem alone. So that's why we need together means to share, especially to find the root cause, and also to lay down the strong foundation that can be understood by the majority of the people, and whether believers or not believers. And in my opinions, sometimes directly or indirectly, the attitude and behavior of humans to some extent are influenced much by their understanding, their philosophy. So I agree very much with you to find out more deeper cause, and also find the core problem and the core solution. What is the? This is the very complex and very difficult. But I'm thinking on if in the past there is some assumption that there is a clash, and now we turn to the synergy and the line of civilization. So now there is new progress of the human thinking, that if in the past the difference can be what a threat for the humanity, but now we turn that actually the plurality and also heterogeneity can be a blessing if we can manage properly. But the problem on how we can manage the differences, in order we don't use of force, but use of dialogue, not hard force, but soft force, something like that. That's why in my party, within National Economy, we are looking for the new paradigm on understanding how to address misunderstanding, especially in misinterpretation and misimplementation of certain religious teachings. Because in Al-Quran, for example, there is words of war, but also there is word of peace, for peace. But sometimes we misinterpret how when we can go to war, when it is for defense, for example, not for offensive, to defend the truth, for example. But it is not easy as we say that. But of course, we need a practice all the time in dialogue. I hope by making a synergy and the alliance between local, national, regional, and global, what is called in our terminology of Arabic is tahaluf, less tanaqud, not confrontation, but collaboration. How to change this mindset in order we respect, mutual trust, mutual love, mutual recognition. And it seems now this kind of culture is disappeared. So that's why I agree with you, and also about the importance of education to lay down as early as possible from the elementary school by giving model, especially in the family, how the husband and the wife makes collaboration, something like that, not confrontation and conflict. And of course, if it is done continuously, it will bring peace in his mind and give more. What kind of education? I think it is just another question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Yes,
I don't know how many new angry men who are, so we are, while we speak about peace all the time, we are producing extreme high number of new terrorists every day, every minute, and this is also a big problem. Yes.
Thank you very much, His Highness.
Country led by a minority alliance president. So there has to be more than just a conflict between religions or religious teachings. And for me, what's going on is, of course, the conflict between interests and between, again, fight over resources. And if we talk about radicalism and violent extremism, teach his followers the traditions of tolerance. So he instructed his followers not to slaughter cows, to respect the Hindus. As a result, his followers got really creative, and then they eat buffalo meat instead. This happened hundreds of years ago. So we've practiced this for hundreds of years. Indonesians practice this. So for us, the ideas of peace, the ideas of tolerance, it's not something new. This is part of our DNA. And I think, and I really appreciate that you're going to hold the event here in Indonesia. I think it's very timely. I think it's very, very to the point, because I think we as Indonesians could give our little contribution to the world, which is our traditions of peace and tolerance. Thank you very much.
Because if additionally maybe somebody offers them that, which is the case as we know, offers that if you do this, you know, and you have a big family, that's the best way to take care of your family, because we will provide your family then like a pension and so on, and so they get food and they get out of poverty. If you just sacrifice yourself, then you are becoming not only, let's say, the promise that you go directly to paradise, but you are becoming a hero, yeah, and there's a cult linked with this, and this is of course a major problem. But yet it's on the deepest level not the deepest cause maybe of all this, but this is something which is going on all the time. And just also taking up one of your remarks and to respond, because you mentioned terrorism in connection with Islam in other countries, but we could of course say, I mean, how do we call what happens frequently in the United States, you know, when a student goes on the campus and kills 22 colleagues and commits suicide afterwards, or in the shooting with the police afterwards, they don't care whether they die. So it's also a form of committing suicide and just killing innocent people, you know. But this is never called terror. This is normality in the United States, or no, I don't want to be cynically, but you know, I mean, the media are upset and they say it's a tragedy and how poor the families of the victims and so on. But otherwise, I mean, it is kind of accepted that this is part of our society. Yeah. So it's also about media and about the bias of media and control of media. Yeah, so and it's ultimately about information and communication and then education. Yeah. So, but coming back to your remark and also your remarks, but I think it would be important if we meet, or you meet also in these conferences with religious leaders to really come to an agreement that there should be a united Islamic, how do you say, manifest, so to speak, that to kill other people is forbidden by all our religions, and you are not going into paradise if you kill somebody. Yeah. So, and I think this is so important, yeah, also to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I don't have anything to say. But I remember at one time, when I was still young and beautiful, I started handsome. There is one sentence I remember very well in Germany. That's the time when the Prussian kingdom was still trying to establish the empire of United Germany. Bismarck said, nach Canossa again with Nick. That way, of course, religion is no longer important. More important than science. And then we also many examples of that. But later, in the early 70s, an American sociologist say, I think his name, forget the name, he talked about the modern pornography. Not pornography in terms of sex, but pornography means that people behave outside the already accepted reality. So, many is, how come in the modern period people get more interested in religion? That's what you call in critical pornography. Now, of course, that's what happened in the United States. But in Europe, at the same time, I remember a rich Indonesian businessman bought a church and out of the church he made a mosque. That in The Hague. That happened. And my problem is, how can you explain the fact that Indonesia, one of the latest countries to be Islamized, the situation is relatively safe. Of course, every year we can count how many conflicts took place, minor conflicts, how many intolerant action have been taken in several provinces. I think the most took place, that kind of thing took place in West Java. That's what, according to the statistics, most. And then West Java, the Sunnis, had the image of being very tolerant people compared to others. Now, my problem is, how can you explain this fact? Despite of science, despite the fact that people have the ability to understand each other, but then people also like to look back at the past. Look what happened in the Middle East, the so-called Arab Springs. What happened to the Arab Springs? Before the sun shines, the rain is pouring there, and
That's still summer right now.
yeah. So how can you explain that? We are not talking about this civilizational divide, but internal division in one division. At one time, I also wrote a short comment on the Huntington book. I presented the Clash of Civilization. I criticized that book. But now we are not talking about this places. Clash of Civilization. What we are talking now? The internal divide of the civilization. Particularly in the world. Sectarian divide. How can you explain that? We believe in the same God, we believe in the same prophet, we believe in the same, but then look what happened in North Africa, in many countries, except the richest countries. How can you explain that? Even the Americans, the Russians came to Syria and Iraq. Stop fighting, and then fighting Iraq. It's very funny in the sense, tragically funny. How could you explain that? And the problem there, but people fail to solve it. Something wrong, not here, but something, I don't know. Whatever you say about religion, everything has been said before. Everything, whatever you say about tolerance, everything has been said before. But yet, still fail.
Thank you very much.
Of topics because it's in itself so complex that it's difficult on which level we talk and enter into a limited dialogue, limited by time, you know. So I take just out one remark of you about the Arab Spring. Yes, you know, we have seen the change of the communist system, what we call the former Soviet Union. Yeah, and we have had these different revolutions, like in the Ukraine, for instance, the Yellow Revolution. You know, this was years before the Arab Spring, so to speak. The wave of the change had gone through Europe and the former Soviet Union and swept into the Middle East and into North Africa. I was invited a few months after Tunisia, Arab Spring in Tunisia started, to give some remarks in a conference, and I said, you see, let's wait and see what will be the outcome, because my bet is that in a few years PDC will come out with a wonderful documentation where all the heads and different members, or former members of secret services will be interviewed, and then they will speak openly and say what kind of experiment we did do there, how we arranged it, that the different groups have worked in this and that way together. Because we have seen this, you know, in the Ukraine, we have seen it in all the former Soviet Union. That unfortunately, it's not necessarily the people and the revolution by the people, but the people were used by certain interests and their ideals were misused, and it's just a change in the regime in a certain manner, and then everything will be more or less the same, just that other people will control the resources, you know, and the oil, whatever it is. So unfortunately, all these hopefully spring events turn sometimes fast, more or less fast, out to be winter, you know, and not spring.
Do you mean that there is a global scenario for all of this? Based on
Well, you see, in Europe, this is a very hot topic. Let's say in the German-speaking world, you cannot speak about conspiracies. Yeah? So if I would speak like this in a university at home, there would be raising a few hands and say, what you say sounds like if you would be a conspiracy theory. You know, but I sometimes then, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm speaking just about the everyday practice of the conspiracy. Theory is the past. We speak now about, but to be serious, you know, it's difficult. It's a difficult question. But I just can say, if you look at history, even just the history, let's say, of the last 100, 150 years, you see that our world civilization, which is going in a certain direction. So whatever happens and whatever setbacks and changes are happening, it's going in more or less in a particular direction. And this is, of course, we have to speak about world government and global order, and we have to speak about justice and what kind of global order we have. So how many forces and in which way they interact is difficult to say. But you know, I'm using the definition by American law, and if you look in American civil law, then you see that in about 60% of cases at the court in